Good afternoon. Thank you. Was that music chosen for me by Mauro? Or Thank you. I would have preferred some AC/DC. But very good to see all of you. It is wonderful for us all to be here together again after a very challenging 12 months since our last event. And my name is James Young. I'm Vice President with WMC Group and in a previous life, General Manager of this very property. So it's very nice to be back here. I'd like to introduce my panel as we've started. She needs no introduction, of course. Fernadi, please come up. Miss Tu from Nova Hospitality, where are you? There you are. Fernadi, sit in front of your picture, please. It should be fairly obvious to people who we are, but I've been told I have to follow instructions. Miss Tu, very nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you for joining. Kevin, again, someone who needs no introduction. Thank you. From Fusion Hotel Group. Great to have you here. Welcome back. Thank you. See if you can find your picture. Mr. Huang from Vin HMS. Very good to have you here. Good to see you. Thank you. Okay. Just find your picture and somewhere near there. A man who needs no introduction, Mr. John Gardner from Archipelago, Indochina. And last but not least, Mr. Varun Grover, Country Head Vietnam for Booking.com. So thank you very much all. Please take a seat. 2 long years ago, I read a report where Emirates Airlines were forecasting there would be no recovery from COVID until 2024. I thought that was incredibly pessimistic, but boy was I wrong. And only last week, the Economist Intelligence Unit released some research on the Asian travel market. And they were talking about no full recovery until 2024. And they specifically mentioned that Vietnam will potentially be slower to recover due to the lack of Chinese and Russian markets. And we've already touched on that a little bit, but it certainly points for us to ponder. And the way up is there for Vietnam. It's a question of how quick the way up will be. We have many challenges as well going forward, and we will touch on some of those points in this panel. So let's just do a very quick introduction. I've done it already, but maybe just to remind everyone who you are and what you do.
Hi, again, I'm Fenedy from STR. So what I do is I handle Southeast Asia business development. So we looked into hospitality data. So I'm your go-to person in case you needed help for market insights.
Hi, my name is Tu. I'm representing Nova Hospitality, one of very new segment from Nova Group. I believe all the people here that know Nova Group for a very long time. And Nova Hospitality is very new and we are building our own brand right now. So I'm here to share with all of you some insight about Nova Group development as well, and also share some insight about the business that we have been managing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Kevin Beauvais, CEO with Fusion Hotel Group. Today we have 20 hotels in 2 countries. We have 3 brands with Fusion, Glow, and Hive soon to be launched. And I've been here now for about a year and super happy to be in Vietnam after 25 years in Thailand.
Hello, the name is Hoang Nguyen. I'm the CEO and founder of Vin HMS. I made a mistake a few years ago thinking building a PMS would be easy. And then so I paid the price, and I have that running at 20,000 room in Vietnam now. But so I'm not really an operator or developer, but more like a software developer. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Gardner, CEO of the newest hotel group on the block here in Vietnam. That's Archipelago Indochina. We've joined forces with Archipelago International, who have over 150 hotels in Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, and the Middle East. So we're introducing the brands into Vietnam brands such as Aston, Huxley, Harper, Neo, Fave Hotels. So all of these brands, you'll see them in the future in Vietnam. So we're looking forward to an exciting future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. My name is Varun. I'm heading Booking.com in Vietnam. Our mission is to make it easier for everybody to experience the world, and that's exactly what I'm doing, making it easy for our customers to experience this beautiful country, working along with our partners, our vendor network, to make sure that customers have a very seamless, frictionless experience. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, everyone. We will go through some questions. I hope we might have some time for some questions from the audience as well. But let's start. Now, we touched a little bit on performance already, but let's talk about how things have been during the pandemic and what's happened. So maybe, Ms. Tu, maybe you'd like to give us your view to start.
Okay, thank you, James. As you know that we have at the moment a Nova Group, Nova Hospitality, we have 5 hotels in like drive-in area, more like in Vũng Tàu, Cần Thơ, Phan Thiết. And we see a very significant change when we have during the pandemic. So for example, like Azerai Cần Thơ or the project that we have in Anantara and Phan Thiết, the customer segmentation that we see is coming a lot from overseas. The domestic is around 40 to 50%. But during pandemic, we see the change in terms of segmentation, and we see that a lot of domestic, like we have the expat in Vietnam travel to Azerai and Anantara as more upscale resort. And also people change the habits, so they travel more weekend instead of the weekday. And that is what we saw during the pandemic. And also when the pandemic happened, the hotel like Ibis Style or Mercure in Vũng Tàu, we work together with some industrial, the company that got in industrial zone. And there's actually, we signed a contract with them, so there's some certain stability during the pandemic. And that's how we hold together, and we have the guests, mostly domestic guests, coming from Ho Chi Minh City to all the hotels and resort of Nova Hospitality.
Thank you. Kevin.
I think for us as a group, I think when we look inward, we would say we didn't do a very good job previously with the domestic market. We went after the international customer. We thought they paid us better. We thought they stayed longer. I mean, we didn't do a really good job with the domestic market. But clearly there's a great domestic market, and it is growing leaps and bounds. And I think what we've all seen over the last 5 years, it's a different market. And I think we've all got a real responsibility to look at the domestic market and make sure we don't lose them. And that's going to mean some flexibility on pricing and some resident rates and some different things that I think we've got to do. It's a great market, and we really have to go after that.
Yeah, I think it's very good, 2 good points there. First of all, many people talk about Vietnam's emerging middle class, but in hospitality, I think we've been very slow to capture that. And the pandemic has actually given us an opportunity to do so. Varun, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see how domestic segment has been growing, and we've also been observing that in our trends. What's very interesting to see is that if you look at 2019 and going by a report which McKinsey published last year, overall Vietnamese travelers spent about 16 billion USD on the overall travel, right? And 5.2 billion USD was actually spent outside Vietnam. Now with COVID, these are the customers, these are travelers who are stuck in their own home country, right? And where do they travel? Where do they spend this money on entertainment, on experiencing outside world? And all that money has pumped back into the market. And this is where we see that the potential in domestic will continue to be there. And we are very optimistic about leveraging on this segment. So for sure, even for us, based on insights we have, domestic will continue to be very important for us.
Thank you. I think the challenge is, of course, once international markets open, how are we going to keep those people in Vietnam? Yep. Any comments on that? Any ideas?
Actually, we thought about that as well. You know that Azerai is very unique product that belongs to Nova Hospitality. And before pandemic, as I mostly focused on the international guest. So I think after, actually we at the point that everything start to go back to normal. Of course, it will take around 5 months to like 1 year in order to get more international guests coming to Vietnam. But the thing is that all the hotel here, I believe they have the strategy to start target into those international market in order to bring the balance between domestic market, also international market as well. And moving forward, because there are some certain seasonality. So for domestic market, people care a lot about what I see is that for the drive-in area, like Vũng Tàu or Phan Thiết, later, like end of this year, we have like highway open, right? So the time that people can travel from Ho Chi Minh City to Phan Thiết is shortened. And if there's a good promotion, the pricing package for the weekend, then I believe the capture for domestic market is still there. And like what Mauro to present, right? Whether it's Bali or Sapa or it Hạ Long or, you know, compared to other area, Vietnam has a lot of potential. And the domestic market, even before pandemic, is still like 50 to 60%. I believe that even when we have the guests travel international, we still be able to maintain that and keep the balance between domestic and international.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. John.
Yes, I think what's happened over the pandemic, and particularly in the last few months, since we've been able to travel, it's changed the mindset of local people in Vietnam, or people that live here, whether it's locals or expats. You know, people are finding out and exploring new parts of Vietnam they didn't know existed. People that might have traveled overseas before, they're now thinking, wow, we don't need to travel into overseas. You know, Vietnam has got so many destinations, and there's so much good product around the country now, whether it be on the coast or mountain retreats, whatever. There's so much more on the drawing board. So I think domestic travel is here to stay. I mean, in volume.
Thank you. Maybe, sorry. Can I just morph into the next question then? And because, yeah. Sorry, I would never interrupt a lady. Do you want to add a point? Or?
Well, I mean, we're talking about source market, obviously, the locals and the internationals, and how we're going to keep the international market. I mean, you have a lot of offerings, obviously, and for me, looking at the data of the different markets, you definitely, even it was during the time of pandemic, there's still that opportunities of rates going up, or the weekends and the weekdays. So there are so many areas for analysis. So looking at segmentation, your groups, and you know, I know there has been some inquiries now on groups as markets are opening. So obviously, like I said earlier, you know, it's a race now. So it's just a matter of time when you open up, and you have the infrastructure, you have the offerings, so there's obviously a lot of potential.
Okay, thank you. I think, yes, let's morph into the next question. How is the recovery going to take shape, and which part of the business is going to do best? Is it going to be city hotels, or is it going to be resorts? And let's have a look. Varun, what's your thought?
Sure. I mean, you know, we all know that the world is very uncertain right now, and I think we will continue to live with COVID. It's amazing to see that more and more countries are considering COVID as an endemic. So for sure, you know, with this uncertainty, I think people are very conscious of where they travel. What the important question here is, what do customers really look for, right? And I think there will be tailwind of recovery with the domestic, and as tourism becomes more open, there will be increase in inbound. Honestly, we are already looking at some green shoots. So I think recovery might take a couple of years from now, if you ask me, based on, you know, how I see it. But I would say domestic will continue to drive performance for hotels in Vietnam. Now, coming to your second part of the question, right, between hotel resorts, I think I'll come back to the same point. What do customers really want? So I think firstly, it's the health and safety. Customers today are very particular about health and hygiene at the accommodations they travel to. And at Booking.com, we've actually come up with a very innovative filter on front end where customers can choose which are these properties with increased health and safety measures. They're also looking for flexibility. So, you know, properties, whether it's city, hotel, outside city, whoever has more flexible policies for customer to make changes last minute will grow. And I think even before pandemic, people are looking for more authentic experiences, right? So while hotels and resorts will continue to be a business driver, even for booking, I think it's one of our biggest category. We also offer 19 alternate accommodation segments, right? Whether it's villas, camps, beautiful homestays, with a lot of character. So I think all these things will continue to shape how customers travel in future and recovery.
Thank you. Fernadi, any data you'd like to share with us?
Well, obviously, we've seen that resort generally has got better performance as compared to city hotels. But, as the fears really has reside, and we really have seen that city hotels are also already picking up as compared to previous months. So that's really a great indication. And of course, we also have to think about the gateway cities, like, Ho Chi Minh as itself. Before you go to another destination, once we get to attract international tourists, they need to go to Ho Chi Minh. And, it's a great gateway to be able to experience what the country has to offer.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I think we've got to really sort of throw away everything we thought we knew when it came to seasonality and times of the year. And, what we're seeing right now, since this latest reopening from Hanoi, business coming into Saigon that we've never seen before. And that's amazing. Tu and I were just talking about the need for people to get together for some small meetings, some small mice business that's domestic, but people want to get together just like we all do today. People want to get together, and there's a lot of opportunity for small groups, and whether it's an ex-com or department heads of a group or a company, there's a ton of opportunity there. So I think we've got to really just look at it completely differently than we ever have before.
Yeah. I'd just like to pick up, if I may, perhaps with you and John, Varun's point on flexibility. So as operators, and I've seen this with airlines, book direct with an airline and you get flexibility. Yeah. If you go through an agent, there is no flexibility. How do you feel about that? It's an interesting one, always this argument between OTA and booking direct. Any comments? I don't want to start a war.
What should I say, Varun? Look, I think whether it's hotels or whether it's any other sort of business, I think the world is moving towards a more flexible environment, and hotels are certainly no exception. And I think the more flexibility, the more personalised we can provide, make guest experience in our hotels, the better support and loyalty we will get in our hotels. And being flexible to the market and the demand, there is no choice. That's the way of the world from now on, for sure.
And I think, taking Kevin's point as well, there has to be a lot more flexibility when it comes to groups, not just individual bookings as well, which is something as an industry we've been very reluctant to do in the past. But I've seen that, I think we all have, as operators recently. So talking health and hygiene, and it is an interesting thing how technology has changed over COVID. A wise old general manager told me once, many years ago, that when it came to technology, you needed to be at the leading edge, not the bleeding edge. And I think Mr. Huang's comment earlier on reflects that. But Mr. Huang, tell me, how has COVID changed hospitality technology?
Well, I know Mauro said we don't want to mention COVID again, but I believe to understand how COVID changed hospitality tech, you need to look what happened, right? So there's a few things that I saw during COVID, and no offense to all the operators here. And the first thing would be the adaptation to change. I mean, for hotel, it's very slow. I mean, it is very hard. And then so, operator and hotel at the receiving end of whole kind of policy and law and regulation change, right? You always receive it in the last minute. But then we have a problem when we communicate that with the guests. So the communication with the guests is just one example. Is like hotel didn't do a really good job during COVID, because I've seen many cases where the guests actually ask the hotel, like, what is your policy? What do I have to do? Any quarantine? What's happened when I come to Ho Chi Minh City? And most of the time it's, people don't know. Or even if you know, there's no way for you to communicate properly with all your guests, before they arrive or when they do the booking and things like that. So this is just an example of how the current technology doesn't allow you the ability to change quickly, right? And then after COVID, like Varun said, the market looks back, but the expectation have changed, right? So I've read the report from Booking too, and also from Expedia, and right now the consideration is not just the location, the quality of the food, but hygiene policy, flexible cancellation policy, and they expect full refund, right? Because I think most of us have a case where we want to go to the trip, and then one of us that's positive for COVID, right? And then it's just like, yeah, I want full refund. So it's easy for the guests to want that, it's reasonable. But how do we as a operator, make sure that the moment you receive, let's say 10 rooms back 24 hours before they arrive, how can you push it out there in a very quick and efficient way, okay? So, and then also the communication on, the count and the cleaning and the mask mandate or not and things like that. So with all that said, I wouldn't go for detail on the technology. It would probably take me like a few days. But all in all, I think after COVID, right, what we see here is whatever system that grow or adapt after COVID will be something allow you the ability to change really quickly and also to communicate with other systems quickly, because we don't have a luxury to have like one single platform from day one, right? You all build with the core and then you add in as many systems as you grow. So at the minimum, you must make sure that all these systems communicate with each other properly. So the moment a housekeeper follow your deep cleaning procedure, clean the room, then the front office know, the guest on the guest app also get a notification. Because we all understand that they don't, as a guest, I don't really care about how you clean my room, but I need to know. That makes me feel a lot safer that way, okay? So the way we build our system and the way we talk to operator, there's three things on the technology that we want to mention. First, it should be something that open. So that something can connect to you. So the moment as Google decide, hey, I want to post your hotel room into Google Hotel, Google search, can I do it? So you should be able to do it quickly. The second thing would be extendable. So you can reach out to other systems and collect the data. You guys all know vaccine passport in Vietnam is almost ready, right? But let's say if the government decide the moment the guests walk into your hotel, you need to validate that vaccine passport status with the Ministry of Health. How's you going to do it, right? And then so that's the second. And the third thing is it should be human-centric, because people talk about the human shortage, right? So how are you going to operate the same hotel with less people and actually make more money on that? So I think that's a three key important thing on technology that, change after COVID, and, that's how we want it to be.
Thank you. Kevin, do you want to jump in there? I heard that thing, last one particularly, about reducing staff and using technology in the right way.
Yeah, back in 1984, we put ATM machines into a 1,200-room hotel in downtown Chicago, and everybody just laughed at us, and they said, what the hell are you doing? But I think we've all come a long way, and we've all checked in on AirAsia counter, and I think the world has clearly changed, and I think we've got to be able to take iPads and make the user experience. We've got to stop designing big front desk and having all these spaces. It's got to be more personalized. We've got to deal with people. Everybody's used to dealing with these small devices these days. That's what we've got to do. And it's right there. It's available. There's a lot of great people out there that can make that happen for us.
And I think it is absolutely a very important design point, that whole arrival experience. If you have the most beautiful driveway and entrance, and then you come up against a barrier, it's quite depressing in a way in 2022, that's the way you lose that human touch. So anything, Ms. Tu, from...
I would like to share something as well, because I think like what the gentleman shared, that the guests now, they fear getting in contact with a lot of people. So we also from Nova Hospitality, we're working with, we have like Nova Technology. So we're working on the option of like one touch, like pre-check-in one touch or no touch when the guests actually come to the hotel, they can use a phone to actually go to the room. So I think those are the things that would considering in the future when there's a pandemic happen and then people are afraid that get in contact too close to the for example, like receptionist or to the other guest.
Yeah.
I just want to add one small point.
No, it's a good point. I'm very excited that we have actually at least 2 international travelers on stage here. Fernandi, tell me, as an international traveler, how have your expectations as a guest changed when it comes to technology?
Well, definitely, we need to strike a good balance. For me, I'm looking for, convenience. And obviously, for me, I want to feel safe as a traveler. I mean, like I said earlier, this is my first time to travel again. So when we were talking last week, we're doing like a panel exercise. I was saying, like, I haven't really traveled that much so I'm one of those in the statistics who are afraid to travel. But coming here, it's so easy. It's, the confidence is there. So, and for technology, obviously, is, very easy to connect with the front office, but from a guest perspective, don't lose that human touch, that experience, because we can get lost in too much technology and then you lose that experience that even Mauro has said, it's more of what you offer in terms of experience. So finding the right balance.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to ask another question, but in a few minutes I will open to the floor if anyone has a burning question relevant to this panel, okay? Nothing to do with the New Zealand rugby team or Indian cricket or the lack of English sporting success, whatever. But please, anything relevant to this panel, so have a think. But let's, as we're on international matters, Mauro talked about the flood of international brands coming to Vietnam, and 261 branded properties in the coming or will be in the next 3 years. John, Kevin, Miss Two, yeah. Tell me, what do international brands see in Vietnam? Why should they come to Vietnam? Why are they signing up? Who would like to start? Oh, John, go on. Sorry, I made a cheap jibe about the All Blacks, so off you go.
There's a problem with that? I think most developers and hotel developers, they see the opportunity in Vietnam as Thailand was probably 25 years ago or so, and we'll look at where Thailand is today. Well, pre-pandemic, of course, but there's a lot of locations within this country that have a great potential for resorts, whether they be coastline or mountain, and to much of the world, it's a relatively new destination. Thailand's been open so Thailand has been very well developed for 30, 40, 50 years or more, and Vietnam, as I say, is relatively new, and it needs a lot of international visitors and domestic visitors to explore parts of Vietnam that are just raw beaches or raw mountainsides and opportunities to explore the country. It's such a beautiful, beautiful country, and many, many places. So that's hence the reason why Archipelago Indochina is here with its 10 brands and going to be part of the number of brands coming into the country in the future.
10 brands. Congratulations. Can you name them all?
Yes, let me talk about that later.
No, don't worry. But congratulations. Kevin.
Yeah, I think there's clearly an opportunity when you look around the region, you look at the growth of what's happened, and you look at the growth spurt of where Thailand and other countries have come. There's room for opportunity for more brands. There's just got to be clear definition of who you are as a brand. We're all talking about guest experience, but we've got to get serious about that. Big box hotel is great, but you've got to be able to provide the experience. And I think the new brands that come in and the new brands that are being introduced as we see throughout, both in Vietnam and throughout the region, there's tremendous opportunity as long as you find that niche and as long as you truly focus on that guest experience.
Yeah, and sorry Ms. Tu, I would like you to put your point about the importance of Vietnamese hospitality against international brands. But just, again, I think, taking Kevin's point, the sense of place for all designers. Yeah? When you're in Vietnam, you want to know that you are in Vietnam, not just in another hotel room. Yeah? So, Ms. Tu, international brands, what do you think?
I think it's very positive for us from the owning company point of view. Because at the moment we have 5 hotels, but moving forward in the next 5 years, Nova Hospitality will have around 100 hotels developed in the pipelines. And because our goal, I believe from all the owners as well, is to deliver international experience to all the guests that come and use the service of Nova Hospitality. And based on my experience working with all the international operators, we see that they're very careful when it comes to invest or when it comes to their agreement to put the brand on one properties. So the flood of international, numerous of international hotel operators coming to Vietnam proves that the infrastructure investment, there's the accessibility to different areas in Vietnam. There's the proper investment from the owning company. There's a potential for all the operators to see the business growing in different areas. So I think, and also we can see that the international hotel operator brand is not only in the big city and developing city, but also in like Phan Thiết, Đà Lạt, Cam Ranh, those areas that still have a lot of rooms for development. So I believe from Nova Hospitality as an owning company, besides choosing the operator, we want to work in partnership together with the operator to build a destination as well in coordination with the local authority and also the central government. So I think the fact that we see a lot of international operators, especially more luxury positioning, proves that Vietnam has a lot of potential and there's a lot of faith in tourism in Vietnam moving forward.
Yep, thank you. Varun, from your side, do you see international brands as critical for Vietnam's future?
I mean, absolutely. I think international brands bring a lot of awareness about the country to international tourists. So it definitely is important for a country. And I remember, when Mauro was talking about how different experiences is what people are looking for. I think this is something which is very important. I truly believe in experiential travel, and I think that's the future. So whether it's a local brand or international brands, I think they have to be very mindful of what kind of developments they are looking for within Vietnam, because there's so much potential. Like, a long weekend is coming now, and everybody I talk to, almost 99% people, are going to either Phu Quoc or I hear Đà Lạt. And that's about it. Then, Vung Tau maybe. But Vietnam is such a big country with so many beautiful experiences. Where are these destinations? Why aren't people going there? Where is the awareness? So I think there's so much more which can be achieved. And yeah, I'm very optimistic about future of Vietnam and what international developers can do in the country.
Yeah. And it is interesting, I know from experience that international brands used to say, we focus on primary cities first. Has that changed? Are brands now more likely to go to secondary destinations?
Maybe I can answer that. We have done some studies when it comes to brands versus independents, and this is very close to your heart, obviously. We have a lot of brands, new brands coming. So over the years, from maybe 10 years ago, we really have seen independents taking about, in Southeast Asia generally, about 70% and 30% on the brands. But after maybe about 3 years ago, we really have seen that brands growing. Now the share is about 55% on the independents. Of course, there's still a lot of independent hotels, right? But the brands, the awareness for the brands, their expertise, we really have seen that shift that many owners have already moved towards more into the branded properties. And of course, maybe from the business sense is also to bring more attraction to the destination, more buzz into the asset, and then obviously from an assets perspective, that also increases Yes, the gravity, or as you would say, the business in terms of for the independent property. So we've seen that shift generally in terms of, and of course the pipeline. We've seen a lot of the pipeline and a lot of brands in Southeast Asia. And if we probably would look at it from the learnings from Thailand, it's generally a lot of shifts that has happened in Thailand, and we can see that Vietnam is also following that suit in that front.
I think I would just point out, there's a couple new locations that are coming that, 5 years ago, I didn't even know where they were. When people talked about Quy Nhon and people talked about Quang Binh, and Quang Binh's, Mauro had a nice slide and had a great experience there last year. But these are the kind of places that people want to come and see. These are the unique experiences. And, Quang Binh is, truly in the middle of nowhere, but, the airport's going to get upgraded. It'll be an international airport. There's caves, there's beaches, there's a challenging weather in the wintertime, but it's okay. That'll get overcome because there's something to do. It's not going there just for the beach, but you're going there for the caves. And I think that's what the opportunities, as many people have said here today, there's just so many opportunities that can really, truly be, grown.
Huang, from a technology point of view, independents against brands, are you seeing independents more willing to invest in suitable technology after the pandemic?
Well, Kevin just tipped me and he said nobody. And that's partly true. After the pandemic, if you survive, it's already an achievement, right?
Here.
So, to be honest, seriously, they all understand that they have to invest, but I think the question is how, right? And then so there's a whole bunch of new technology that allow you to do transformation, but in a cheaper way, rather than to spend a whole bunch of capex, install, server and buy software and hire people. Now you can basically go out and hire the software. So moving from capex to opex, I think it's a movement that happened not just for independent, but also for chain. Now independent will have more flexibility, right? They can change from the very bottom, and then also have more flexibility on picking the service, right? Chain, you need to have, let's say, you need to have approval from Spain, from US, and it takes time. But independent, they have more freedom. So we'll see. I think it's good for the market, right? But all in all, because Fenadi mentioned on the human touch, and I totally agree with that. So from my point of view, right, technology is just a tool. So all in all, what we need is we need to be able to help operator run a hotel better, to provide better experience. So before, let's say, only experienced front office can remember everybody's name, right, and understand everything. But the idea of technology, we somehow can just have all that information in front of them. So even a junior, when the moment you walk in, say, Mr. Young, welcome back to Intercontinental, things like that. So they know something like that, and actually add a lot more value into the experience. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, one quick question from the floor. Anyone want to say anything? Yes, sir. I know that man. It's just behind you.
Okay, my name is Herbert. I'm the managing director of Alma Resort in Cam Ranh, the place where you have 600% increase in the next years. Huang just said something very interesting about technology, and I want to ask John a question. This is related to what I read in LinkedIn, when you launched Archipelago. I read something about powered by Archipelago. Has this something to do with what Huang said, technology for white labels? Is this something? Because I'm curious, because I may consider such a setup, because we are a white label hotel. Thank you, John. I hope it's not too specific, because CEOs normally they don't know exactly what's going on with a detailed question, okay?
John, I want 10% of any deal. Okay.
Thank you, Herbert. My good friend Herbert. So Archipelago have another string to their bow, which is called Powered by Aston. Aston is actually the flagship brand, and it's where we focus on independent hotels and look after their distribution, their channel management, revenue management, booking engines, and any hotel, independent hotel can plug into our system and get immediate savings on in all sorts of ways to benefit their hotel. We have case studies in other countries whereby we've increased their online business by 200 to 300% just with the investment in the systems, IT systems that we have in Archipelago. So it's yes, good technology is out there with us. And 10%, what did you say, 10%?
Tin. I think it is a very interesting point on white label, and that's something we've seen grow more and more during the pandemic, the number of inquiries about white label services, and international brands are far more willing to consider that at all levels of the hotel business. So that certainly, is that going to continue, or they're going to go back to being more rigid? And that's something, perhaps a question we can answer in 12 months' time. One important point in Vietnam and around the globe is sustainability. And this is a subject that we cannot ignore. And I think we have to ask the question, how are we tackling sustainability? Because forgetting the last 2 years of COVID, sustainability is going to be a bigger issue going forward. So, Varun, what are you seeing in terms of changes in buyer behavior, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is a very interesting topic and something I'm personally very passionate about because growing up in an emerging country like India, I feel I was very fortunate enough to see how tourism can be a force for good. So I've traveled enough within India and within, Southeast Asia, and I truly feel that COVID has given that realization to people that they can actually make a difference while they travel. So this is something, at Booking.com we take very seriously. In fact, sustainability is a core pillar of our mission. We want to make sure that while we are rebuilding this industry, we help travelers to experience the world in a more mindful, more sustainable way. But what is sustainability? It's a buzzword which a lot of people still don't understand because different people have a different idea of what sustainability in travel is all about. So I think at Booking we've tried to make it a bit more simpler because customers are looking for sustainable accommodation options. In fact, every year we come up with a research report. It's called Sustainable Travel Report, which looks into 30 different countries, about 30,000 people, and we survey what travelers are actually looking for. Now you'll be surprised to see that in Vietnam, almost 96% of travelers say that they want to travel sustainably. And almost 74% of travelers have actually searched for a sustainable accommodation last 1 year. So I think clearly, the data points suggest that it's something we must be more mindful of and we should take it seriously. But accommodations are still not, at least, a lot of partners whom we work with are still not clear how they can highlight their sustainable practices to our customers. So we've kind of made it a bit simpler for them because, being such a big player in travel industry, we feel it's our responsibility to support the industry in becoming more sustainable. And today it's very simple for our accommodation partners to go on Booking.com extranet and give us information on 29 practices. These are practices like, whether you use renewable energy or not. Do you have single-use plastic usage or not? So, simple things. And partners can tell us whether they are applying these practices or not. And it becomes very easy for customers to then see which are these properties which are more sustainable. In fact, we've also launched a travel sustainable badge recently. Today we have more than 100,000 properties with this badge on the front end on Booking.com. And clearly the trend says that this is something which will grow bigger and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other comment?
I think on sustainability, there's a couple different things to measure. I think, first of all, last year in our broader group with Peter Meyer from Logis, we looked at our ESG practice for all of our different companies. And I think what's important is it's great to talk about free-range chickens and no plastic straws and all these different things that we can do. But what's really more important is how do we really track and measure that? With our new Hive brand, we've gone with EDGE certification as our first brand new hotel that we've designed. And the idea is that you don't know what you don't know until you really start tracking and measuring it. So I think the first step is really making sure that you can buy into a program, whether it's Edge or Leads or anybody else. There's lots of great programs out there, but having something that you can really measure. The second thing, during lockdown, we found a tremendous opportunity. We've all had gardens, and we grow a little basil here and there, and maybe we have a few chickens. But in Cameron, we really got serious. Today, we've got over 2,000 square meters of garden that generates about 80 kilos of vegetables a day. We're generating about 900 eggs a month from the 200 animals that we have. Chickens and whatnot. And that's done a couple things. Number one, it's reduced food cost. Number two, it's given the staff something to do during COVID that really brought people together to do something different. But more importantly, it's gone back to what I mentioned earlier, it's that guest experience. The experience that people are having now to go get their eggs and see the goats and do whatever else is going on at the farm is really a cool thing. And that's what sustainability is all about. And I think to teach kids, we've got Saturday morning programs where, I thought we'd get 5 or 10 kids. We've got 30, 40 kids sometimes on a Saturday coming to a sustainability class to learn about, water treatment and farming and different levels of sustainability. So there's lots of great ways we can help teach and help our guests learn.
Yeah, and just to back that up, Kevin, 2 very good points. There's a study from Cornell University, which I have here. First of all, talking about the importance of metrics and measurement, and that's one of the big challenges we have as an industry, is measuring how efficient we are. And I think we eventually will go down the HACCP road and having an external auditor of some thought that is the dominant industry player for it. Second thing, and we'll move on to this, is how much sustainability initiatives impact employee engagement, and taking your point of how your colleagues got involved in all of that. But it is something our teams talk about. We may not know it, but they certainly do. And if you're not doing it, then it is something that your competitors are certainly doing. So taking that on, because I can see a worried group over there, I'm just going to ask you very quickly, each of you, elephant in the room, 1 point. What are the problems for Vietnam? And then we're going to end on a high note. But Varun, do you want to start? What's a problem for Vietnam? Quick soundbite.
I think it has to do with sustainable development.
Yep, okay. John?
I think what was mentioned earlier on by Mauro, I think a potential oversupply and a very huge shortage of human resources.
Yep. Yeah. Fine.
I think we move fast, but that will be a downside to that. So how do you move fast and make sure you keep all the experience and all the sustainability? It's important.
Yep. Thank you. Kevin?
Cheap rates.
Cheap rates.
We've got great products. We don't have to give it away. We've got to be competitive, but we don't have to kill each other. Let's be smart about this.
Yeah.
Business is going to come back. So let's not just cut rates to the bottom and try to get to volume, but we got to be sensible.
After the coffee break, Fanadi is going to present average rate decline in Ho Chi Minh City. But no. Thank you. Good point. Thank you. Ms. Tu.
I got the same point as John. It's managing human resource. And I believe that at the moment, a lot of people fighting, like especially in Phu Quoc or some certain area that you have a lot of hotel, people fighting over the staff, the employees, and that is not sustainable. And that's why we have Nova Education as well to build those things. But I think that's one of the biggest things that we have our worry on.
Yep. Thank you. Fanadi.
And for me would be supply changes. Vietnam has got one of the highest in Asia Pacific in terms of pipeline. So obviously when these new builds are coming into the market, more challenges. So we can be optimistic with the numbers, but we have to be very cautious. So it's really striking that balance when these new builds are in. But there will be probably some delays, but we need to factor that in as we go and look into recovery.
Great. So thank you. But we're going to end on a high note, so let's take a good vibe, a good vibration. What's going to make Vietnamese hospitality stand out in the long term? Varun, I'm going to start with you again.
Technology. I think I'm certain that accommodations today understand, our partners know that evolving technology is going to change how they plan and forecast their business. And I think that will definitely be a deciding factor, for sure.
Great, thank you.
I think a lot of new destinations that will come online within Vietnam will be a big appeal to people that do know Vietnam already, and also the lovely nature and personality of Vietnamese people serving in our what will be beautiful hotels and resorts.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Resilient. I believe we got back to the 2019 way before 2024, so we'll see.
Yeah. I hope so. Yeah. Kevin.
Definitely our people here. You know, having worked throughout the region, people are focused, people are very black and white, people are driven, but there's a great sense of hospitality and there's a great sense of English for the international customer. We've got all the right stuff, and I think when we look at where everybody else was at, where we are at today, we're a lot further ahead. And I think we're going to get there. We're going to get there a lot faster.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Ms. Tu.
I think it's stability. It's about the safety that the government been giving to all the international traveler coming to Vietnam. That people feel safe, travel here. There's no war. People living at peace. People adapt very fast with the change due to the pandemic. Saying that the safety feeling when people actually come to Vietnam in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And we must not forget that. Sorry, that the reputation that Vietnam has overseas for that. Yeah.
And for me would be heritage, the love for heritage for Vietnam. I think that's really coincides with the experience that people are looking for. So when the floodgates are open, people are going to be looking for the old and the new, and Vietnam is really the great place for blending that heritage. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
James, we have a question online question just a few minutes ago from Mr. Long. So we have another 1 minute just to have a
1 minute.
quick answer on this one. So to the panel, today we talk a lot about the international brands coming to Vietnam. How about the domestic brands? And how do they do to perform amongst the international brand? What changed for them?
It's a good question. We did cover that to a certain extent, but Ms. Tu, do you want to, or Kevin, you want to have a word? You've got about 30 seconds each.
Yeah, I would just say domestic brands, I've been on both sides of the fence. Domestic brands are more agile, they're more flexible, and that's the key. We don't have 1,000 hotels that we've got to be consistent with. And that's not good or bad, it's just where we're at in this stage in development.
Yeah.
I think international brand is more, because there's a fee, there's a requirement that the owner had to follow. So probably the domestic brand, they give more flexibility, like Kevin said, in terms of requirement on the brand standard, the technical requirement, etc. And they understand Vietnamese, how Vietnamese work, how Vietnamese think. So that, I think, one of the advantage for domestic brand over international brand as well.
And I do think the last 2 years have seen the growth of domestic brands. I don't want to say that international brands abandon Vietnam in its hour of need, but I will put that thought out there that Vietnam had to survive by itself. And many hoteliers really had to adapt very quickly without the support of international offices and so on. So the future is bright for domestic brands, definitely.
Thank you. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we will have many more interesting sections later on the residential and design part. So now I think we have 10 minutes for break, and then we'll be back very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the panelists.
Thank you to the panel.
James.
Thank you.